Hello guys, and we have here today another very amazing video, and I found a very interesting way to do a post commentary. And so we have here a very interesting matchup. We have here Nekroz, which is the deck that I played, versus Qliphorts. So this is pretty much the match that you want to see. Now do note this is OCG. This is OCG, so there's only one unicorn, one senju, one prep, one manju, and there are a lot of other cards that you don't see in the TCG. And this matchup, it's kind of interesting how it is and how I think it's going to transfer over to TCG. I mean, granted, right away in February we're gonna have 3 of everything, 3 manju, 3 senju, 3 prep, and really the outlier in this is, unfortunately about OCD, you will never see this matchup, and that is Burning Abyss versus Nekroz, and that is one of the big matchups that the TCG players really want to see. And the reason you won't see that matchup here is because you either play TCG or you play OCG. So, seeing how Burning Abyss is TCG exclusive, you cannot run this OCG deck. And so, but let's just go right in to what is going on. So we see a scout being played after a mech crypt is made. And it looks like the Nekroz player is actually pretty well set up. He has a Colossalus engraved, a Shrit, so that's 6, and then a Jin attached to his mech quip. If he gets to detach it, then that means he can then go for a Trishula. And so, be it the Qliphort player, he has a standard move, which is summon out one of the level 6s, and then get sacrifice and just sit on that. You have your searcher, you have a lot of control with that play, because you have a monster that doesn't leave the field really easily. And so we see a Jin detached, and that will set up the next play for the Nekroz player. And it's really interesting how Nekroz play, because there's a lot of options. I mean, you could summon out any of the ritual monsters. Yeah, it's like there's only a couple that ever get summoned, unless you're using Cycle, in which case a lot of the other ones that don't get summoned, such as Gunir or Brio, those might get summoned because of Cycle, which is a really good card for that deck. I mean, just being able to summon from the grave allows you to Trishula after you've already used one, and it got destroyed somehow, or you could summon out a Gunir, and all the ritual monsters, they're all really good. It's just that they sometimes have better discarding effects than monster effects. Like, you will never see me summon out Brio, because I'd rather summon out Trishula, or I'd rather summon out Unicorn. And the fact that Unicorn got put to 1, and here we see another Jin with a 2 guard, which is really great for the Nekroz players, being able to get those gens really easily. That can be something that's really hard, and I feel it is the reason why they hit manju and senju and unicorn, because you could get off searches to make unicorn, and then drop make the Velvel chain to drop a Jin. And here we see Alucard try to pop a card, and it will go through. Nope, it is a roll decree, and do note that Alucard will not pop face-up cards. He only destroys set cards, so it will fizzle out. But that roll decree, roll decree is a very interesting card, because it gives a lot of security to your plays, because it's like, oh yeah, my play is gonna go through, but at the same time, it also gives security to your opponent's play, unless you have some type of spell card or something, like a Book of Moon or some other spell card that you could use. And here we see the Trish will be summoned. It was a little bit premature, but seeing how he didn't have anything in the grave, Trish's effect couldn't be used, which is really unfortunate for the Nekroz player. If he would have gotten a lot of advantage, and it'd be really interesting what to hit, because he can't just let that sacrifice to sit there, because then he won't be able to do anything. He'd just be able to attack with one monster, and there would be that monster. So it's really interesting. What do you hit if you against a Qliphort? Some people would say there's a scout right away. I'd actually say hitting the monster that sacrifice is attached to, or hitting sacrifice itself, would probably be the better of the two options. Here we see it. Then you go for one attack, and does opponent have the response? Again, and here we see that spell card. It will increase the carrier's attack, and so then we see him equip. Now this is where the misplay of the Qliphort player comes in. He should have activated that during the damage step. It would have pretty much destroyed Trishula at that time, and so that would have really hurt the Nekroz player, but he activated to the attack so Mequip could chain, switching him to defense mode. And then that is pretty much all the Nekroz player can do. And Warrior Decree and Qliphorts, it's a card you won't really see be played all that much, because you see a lot of Qliphort players running skill drain, and that kind of hurts it. But then again, it goes to that idea of maybe using those floodgate cards and then using Warrior Decree to stop them. And so if you have skill drain on the field, Tower's effect is negated unless you activate it after Towers is summoned. If skill drain is on the field before Killer/Towers is summoned, then Tower's effect will be negated. If it is activated afterwards, then Tower's effect will not be negated. It's very confusing, really ridiculous, and so it's kind of silly. But so that is a legitimate reason to run Warrior Decree, is to turn off skill drain so you can summon out of Towers. And let's see. Here we see our the two players talking a little bit about getting rid of the monster, and yes, we see a tribute of Carrier, which will bounce back Trishula, which is a really interesting thing to do, is to bounce Trishula back to hand, because that risks them being able to summon him out again and then using his effect again. So that could be a little bit risky, but if you think you can do it, then you have to get rid of Trishula one way or another, and so that's just the thing. You can't not have a Trishula be there. You have to get rid of that Jin if it's there, and if it risks being Jinned next turn, then hey, at least you got off that one play. And so, let's see, what did he search for? I think he searched for another scout, I believe. And so here we see the Pendulum Summon, and so then he gets to use Performer Power to get off another search. He has already normal summoned, so he cannot make Towers, which is really happy for the Nekroz player, unless of course he activates it and searches out the field spell and already has Towers in hand, in which case he could make Towers then and there. But then again, at this point it would be a really bad idea, because you should probably attack first before making Towers. And then but nope, we see him search out a Sacrifice. Sacrifices will help him have a board that just is too hard to get over. And the field will go away. Getting rid of all the monsters on a Nekroz player's field is a really risky thing to do, because that opens them up to use the Nekroz spell and trap cards. Well, not trap cards, the spell cards from the grave to banish and then search out more of them. So that is a really risky play. I mean, do you leave this monster on the field so that way your opponent can't get the cards they want, or do you get rid of it so you can push and do damage? And here we see a prep out of the Nekroz player. That is a really good top deck. Gives a lot of ability. Pretty much lets him do whatever he wants. At this point, like, prep is really the key card. Hitting prep. A lot of people are unhappy about prep and manju and senju being hit because it hurts all other rituals. They say that Colossalus or Brio should have been hit instead. Yet it would have been tomato. If you hit Brio, I would have ran more Senjus. If you hit Colossalus, I would have ran Gisky Chain, which actually I do run in this deck. So it's like, who really... It wouldn't have done anything. And as far as other rituals, there are no other rituals. It's just this deck. Like, yeah, you could run Relinquish, or you could run that Herald Saphira deck, but yeah, they aren't that good. I mean, Relinquish is an instant loss against Qliphorts here. And the Qliphorts are really big in the OCG because they don't have Burning Abyss, so why run Relinquish? Granted, though, Relinquish could just destroy Nekroz, which I am very happy about, seeing how Relinquish is my favorite card. But that is something else for another day. So here we see a Unicorn, which is really good. Unicorn is really good because it allows you to get off that search. You're using 2 cards to summon out a monster, and then you're getting 1 card back from it, so you're pretty much going even. You still have a monster on the field, and you have a search, so it gives a lot of advantage. And here we see a Trishul and a Jin. We see 3 actually really good cards get banished. And yet, that is the thing. You think how this was me doing, I should have hit the sacrifice instead. That would have helped out probably a lot better. And here I dropped Decisive Armor to get rid of that guy. Like, it's really hard with this, like specifically with this board. Do you leave the scout so that way they get more searches, or do you try to get rid of as many monsters and hope they don't have anything? And getting rid of that sacrifice, they would have had the searching ability, but yet if they couldn't have done anything with it, they would have lost. And so, but he has Summon Arts, so yeah, hitting it wouldn't have done it. Hitting it didn't do anything. He just gets off another search. And I really wonder how Qliphorts are going to change with the new spell cards, specifically in the TCG, because I really like Assembler. Like, the draw power it gives is just really good. Summon out towers and then draw 3 during your end phase. It's just really, really bad. It's just stupidly bad. And some people, although the thing is that it goes into that question of draw versus search. Do I draw through my deck and get a whole bunch of cards that could allow me to go off, or do I search out that one card that I do need? And so it's that whole thing. The Nekroz is a really big search deck where it's just 1-for-1 Brio for Trishula, Colossalus for Examir. Unless you run prep, in which case then that's even conditional if you have a card in the grave. But Qliphorts with Assembler, they can now be more than just that search, the deck that searches. It can be an even more powerful deck. And so here we see the same play, they can get rid of Trishul, which is bouncing back to the hand. And then we see a sacrifice get off another search. It is really interesting how the card that you want to summon out is the monster that you want to protect. Is the monster you use to protect themselves. You use another copy. And it's just really ridiculous. I mean, I only run 2 Trishulas. That probably might be a really silly thing of me to do, is run 2 Trishulas. But with so much search power, like, drawing into too many of them can get foggy. And it's just like, the deck can search for days. And so here we see a huge Pendulum Summon, and at this point, because of Unicorn, it negates all their effects, so they get their max attack. And it is just absolutely stupid. And really unfortunate for the Nekroz player. He has to drop Garnier if he wants to live. I mean, with 4 2000 beaters, that is a game right there. And one of them can attack twice, so he has to drop Garnier. So there we see the Garnier play, and at this point it is looking very unfortunate. He can, if Unicorn does leave the field somehow, he can get off a search, granted that he can't just let it be destroyed by battle, because then he'll lose. So it becomes this really bad position for the Nekroz player. It is looking like it is game for the Qliphort player, as all those monsters pummel right in. So, what will the Qliphort player do next? He does have that scout in hand, and here we see the Nekroz player's extra deck. It won't do much because all their deck has is rank 3s and rank 4s, and right now they're all unaffected by level 5s and rank 5s and level 5s and lowers, except for like 2 of them. They're unaffected by level 7s and lowers, so it's just absolutely really, really bad for the Nekroz player, because he has no hope of getting out of this. He can't even Excite on Night, which is a really great card against them. Excuse me. So, what will the Qliphort player do? Here we see them chatting again, it seems. Oh, he is making Bouncer. That is very interesting, but it does fall short because it once more Unicorn will negate Bowser just by being there on the field. So it is something that people do tend to forget, is that Unicorn just shuts down the extra deck. That is something that a lot of people have complained about with this deck, is the fact that If Unicorn hits the field, you can't one-on-one him, you can't do anything. If you get rid of the Jin and Unicorn is still on the field, it's like, what do I even make? And at this point we see a top deck for Exomir. That isn't actually the top deck that would have been good. It would probably have been Cycle. Cycle would have been probably a better top deck, but yet I don't think he would have even been able to use it because he didn't have Shrit available to him. And at this point, he can get off a Trishula. He cannot Jin, but yet at this point he's staring down 27 beater, 31 beater, and I think another 28 beater, I believe. And so it is just, there's no way out of it. He can't get over all those monsters, specifically when most of them can just summon themselves back with scale. So it is just a game at this point. It is, he is just making his move just to make it. And here we see the skill drain time. Yeah, the Qliphort player realizes it's game. He activates skill drain while there is a water on the field, which does nothing. Even if it was a me play, it doesn't do anything. It gives a little bit of hope of, hey, maybe I can do the rest of 16 damage, but unfortunately that is impossible to do at this point. And it goes through, what do you hit? Do you hit the 31 beater? Well, then you're still staring down the 28 and the 27 beater. You can't get over any of those monsters. You get rid of... What do you get rid of? It's just too hard to say. It is just game. At this point, there is nothing the Nekroz player can do, unless like he magically gets a pot of greed to his hand, or not even that would do really well. He'd need a graceful charity. And so the Nekroz player then surrenders, and you get to see the Nekroz player side, and he has an extensive side, which is 2 bottomless, which is really interesting, and a whole bunch of ways to get rid of back row. And then we see 1 lava golem being sighted, and only 1 because there wasn't a towers being played, and we see upstarts being sighted out, and a tour guide being sighted out, Grammel being sighted out because Grammel, they're all unaffected by Grammel. And again, tour guide is getting sighted out because I'd rather have a level 4 monster in my hand being able to make those plays. And it's really hard to choose. What do you get rid of in this deck? Perhaps Cycle would have been a good card to side out. Cycle probably would have been a better choice than what I do believe I side out. I do believe I end up siding out a Nekroz, I believe. Which are pretty much, which actually kind of hurt me game 2, but you guys will see that later. So what is the last card? Siding out a tour guide. It'd be signing out a tour guide would really hurt it, because then you'd have pretty much no hope. And then signing out a Neko, we did see a water crease, so it's not like they're running too many traps. And we're running a lot of cards that we'd run a set, and we opened up with one of our side deck cards, which is actually really great. If he can get out Scout and then be able to pop, and we will actually open up with Manju, which is really good. Manju being that Stratos that he is able to get off a decent amount of search, but Cycles probably would have been a better play. So here we're able to see Brio, dropping Brio for probably Unicorn, seeing how he already has Kaleidomir. And he is just 1 card away. If that tour guy could have been a Exomir, he could have done a first turn Jin, which would have been very debatable of whether or not to do a first turn Jin, because doing first turn Jins can be really bad if your opponent has those cards to get over it right away, because you're staring down 5 cards and you're hoping that all of them are dead. He searches out Trishula because you can always get Exomir just by banishing Unicorn. So Trishula is the harder card to get, and he's really hoping that the card he's making, Level Chain, will not be on the field during his next turn. He wants Level Chain gone. So he detaches that Unicorn, and what will he put on the top of his deck? Normally he would have dropped a Jin, but he's seeing how he already had Jin. He is not going to, he's going to set the Fairwood, hoping that he can blow up a Scout and do a decent amount of damage. The opponent would have taken 1100 total, and it would win, and the Nekroz player won't only take 300. But then we see an MST, and that MST pretty much decides the game at that moment, which is really, really unfortunate. But the game does go on for a little bit longer. Here we see the scout play, so yeah, if that MST wasn't in the hand, then it would have been a little bit different, but yet you always know those Qliphort players, they always open up with a scout and a summoner's art, so it is just absolutely stupid. And then he goes for the same play, which I believe is carrier into a sacrifice. And he is getting rid of the Qliphort chain, which makes the Nekroz player very happy, knowing that he can get off Exomir's effect, and then make a Jin next turn. But then he has some back row. Add a Nekroz card from the grave to your hand, yet so that's why I always banish Unicorn, because you can't add back Unicorn with Unicorn. Yet seeing how there's only one, it's just like, who cares? I mean, there's no real way to add it back to your hand anyways, unless you decide to run Power Average, which is at 1 in the OCG. So here we see Brio be dropped. Probably, it's really tricky. Does the Nekroz player saw that he has 2 back rows, so he does he go for Gunir to try to protect himself from being destroyed, or does he try to go for another Trishula? What does he do? Now he can Trishula him, he can use Trishula's effect, he has that MST in grave, which is really, really great for him. But again, what does he hit? What does he get rid of? And does our Qliphort player have a response? No, he does not. So we see a search for Gunir, because he is afraid of the back row, not the carrier. It would have been probably a little bit better to go for that. And then we see the tour guide hoping to make an hour card. And is there a response to that? No, there is not. We see the Jins be summoned, which is decent, and at that point the Nekroz player feels pretty happy knowing that he is able to make Alucard, and then hopefully he will be able to get rid of a card. What does he hit? If you remember, he was in this situation last game, so that is unfortunate. And then we see the skill drain get played, which pretty much says you're screwed. If that MST wasn't there, or if the MST, even if the MST, like that skill drain would have still been there, because I would have activated Fairy Wind right away once that scout got activated. But at that point, you're pretty much just hoping that you get a Fairy Wind to get rid of that, because otherwise you're just in a lot of trouble and there's nothing you can do to get over it. And this is why I think having those two Nekroz cycles probably would have been a little bit better choice to have, to stay in the deck, so that way you could have summoned it and they wouldn't have been able to activate anything in response. I did not need to summon that tour guide because I had the Jins already. So let's see. And here the Nekroz player just has to decide, does he make Trishula and Jin his opponent hoping that he can't do anything, or does he just let him, or do you just end? And he has decided, and he's hoping that the opponent can't do that much. He does not have a pendulum scale yet, but if he can get a performer pal, he can be in a very good position to where there's just nothing you can do. So what will the Qliphort players search for? what it comes down to, he has a skill drain, so all of his monsters are at a high attack, which is really bad. And he sees him search out to a scale 9. What is this called? It's Carrier and Helix. I believe the other guy's name is Helix. I'm not sure if that's an OCG of one of them or not, but I believe the one he searched out was Helix. So will he summon him just to bounce back? No, we see a scale 1 Disc Blade, so now he can start pendulum summoning. If he summons out that scale, the Helix, he can then tribute off both of those guys for a, a Towers, which would be really bad. But then again, Skill Drain is on the field, so, but nope, he does not have Towers, so he cannot do it. So there we see an Alucard got an over, and 3000 correctly. And at this point, it is just really the Nekroz player is in a really bad position because of Skill Drain, making it so you can't get rid of any of the cards, and they're just at 3000 attack. I mean, they have too high of an attack to really be able to get over. And he top decks into a Gishki Chain, who unfortunately wouldn't do anything with Skill Drain being on the field. There is literally no hope for the Nekroz player. He can Jin him, but then his monster will pretty much just die. He could drop Garnier, but yet that wouldn't get over the carrier and the fact that our opponent didn't summon Towers next turn. So it is a very unfortunate position for the Nekroz player. And this is the matchup for yeah, he could set a card, and he's deciding whether or not he should try to establish a wall here. But at this point, it just wouldn't do anything. He can just summon out Towers and then pendulum summon two monsters, and this is like actually 3 monsters. He can search off Sacrifice to get off a 3rd monster. So even if he established a wall, Trishul would be gone, and you'd just have that 1 monster, and then you could even activate Towers effect would be negated. Indeed. So it is game, and this is the matchup that a lot of people want to see, or at least one of the matchups. A matchup that I feel everybody wants to see is Burning Abyss versus Nekroz, which I have done a duel against, but not a really duel. I was dueling the AI, I believe, in that duel. Be it Qliphorts versus Nekroz is a very interesting matchup because it's the Uber control deck versus the really powerful deck. Now, if Nekroz do become too big of a thing in the TCG, I do highly suggest for you Qliphort players start running Monarchs from 4th, because that will get rid of a Jin. Every time I'm running Nekroz, if you use Monarchs from 4th, I will start to cry, pretty much. And here we see one thing that the guy should have done instead. And so at this point, they're just activating stuff to activate stuff. Be it the Qliphort player should have destroyed the Skill Drain using his Helix, so that way Towers would be almighty. But unfortunately, he didn't. He hit his other face down. He probably activated it by accident, but yet he should have hit Skill Drain, because there was nothing I had anyways that would have done anything. And then Carrier bounces Trishul back to the hand. He's gonna go for the Pendulum Summon, and it's just gonna be game. And yes, here we see the Pendulum Summon of how many monsters? 3 monsters? Is there a 4th monster? No, it is just a straight up game. And the Nekroz player then surrenders, knowing that there was not wanting to take the damage. And so that is it. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll stay tuned for some more videos later. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys later. Bye.